Tea Party, the Progressive Party, Ross Perot. What is the history of third-party candidates, and what does it mean that Elon Musk is now ready to launch the American Party? It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, on the Fox News Facebook page. We hope you'll hit subscribe at Apple or on Spotify. We're joined now by a media fellow at the Heritage Foundation, comedian, friend of the program, Tim Young, and fellow Texan, Tim Young. What's up, Tim?
First in-studio guest. I mean, I hope that your show gets better from this point forward, but you brought me in today. Thanks, Will.
I'm glad to have you. This is the second day of our new studios for Will Cain Country. You like the desk. You said it looks like a guitar pick.
It looks like a guitar pick. Apparently, there's some sort of debate whether or not it's a guitar pick. It's a guitar pick.
It certainly looks like a guitar pick. I can't say that that was the intention, but you told me it's cool if
You're
it is.
a cool guy. It's a cool show. It's a guitar pick, right?
Okay, let's lean into the idea that I'm cool. Yes. It's a guitar pick. I mentioned, Tim, that you are a Texan. Like Davy Crockett, you weren't born here, but you got here as quickly as you could.
I'm just like Davy Crockett. You're right.
And you painted GTT on your door in Washington, D.C., which stands for Gone to Texas.
Yeah.
As many of the settlers from the 1800s did when they came to the great Lone Star State. But I also know that in a short amount of time that you love Texas, and the events in Central Texas, the flooding, has hit you at home and affected you as well, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who didn't cry about it. Last night I had the Texas Land Commissioner on my show, and she read a letter from one of the little girls who survived to her friends, and it was the most powerful thing that I've heard in a while. And everybody knows someone who was affected by this, and I just I want to caution people, and I'm so glad that Fox is you have the right place to donate to. If you want to give money to this, because there's so many grifters, there's so many people out there that take advantage of tragedies like this, and it always angers me, it depresses me that people want to jump in and try to cash in on something like this, and I'm so glad that you guys are pointing people in the right direction to a good charity.
You know, Tim, I've been through some of these events as a part of this job in the past. The fires and the tragedy in Lahaina, Maui hit me close to home, and I got involved in that. And you bring up a good point. You have to be careful.
Yeah.
In how you help, because there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that take advantage of these situations. And I can say from early on in this tragedy, the Texas Hill Country Community Foundation was something that many people pointed to. I'm glad to see that Fox's relief efforts, including their own contributions and what they're pointing others to, is going directly to something that we know is going to do some good in there. And again, that's go.fox/TX flood relief. You know, one of the most tragic things that I've seen people talk about, and it will continue to unfold as they search for bodies. But, you know, these two cabins of young girls, 7 years old, that were basically washed away were early on in their first term at camp, probably there 3 or 4 days. My wife grew up going to these camps, and she said to me, and now I've heard it recognized that this is probably going to be the case, they make you write letters home to your parents. And did they do that in the first 3 days or so? I'm not sure. But it's very probable that these parents now are going to be receiving letters from their now deceased children.
There's nothing to. By the way, thanks for bringing a comedian on for this conversation. Good booking there, Will. I just, that's the only joke I can make here, because it's so sad, it's so tragic, and I just can't imagine. Just for me watching this, and I don't have children, but just seeing these little girls, little innocent lives that are lost so quickly, and there was nothing that could really be done about it. It's just horrifying, and my heart goes out to all the families and everyone affected by it. There's untold stories too about heroes here, the camp counselors and the folks who ran that camp who tried to save lives and lost their lives in the middle of it. This is, I wish this stuff didn't happen, but I don't know. My heart goes out to these people. There's nothing that really can be added to that. It's just so tragic to see these people. But on the flip side again, the grifters, the people who try to cash in on this, I unfollowed a few of conservatives on social media who were posting pictures of little girls who ended up being the wrong little girls, because they're just trying to get something out quick to get the clicks and cash in on X or Facebook or whatever they're trying to do. And that's disgusting to me. I'm a social media guy before anything else. And when I see people, again, jumping on this, taking advantage of it, it's so gross to me. And I'm hurt, you're hurt, everybody here is hurt in this. And somehow these folks think to themselves, I got to rush to the internet and put out whatever information I can to try to get my clicks and get my numbers up. It's really sad and depressing.
You're absolutely right. And I'll just put a button on this conversation, and then tying it back again to my experience in Maui. The other thing is that in that rush for attention, what a lot of people do is not just give out bad information, but they then feed the idea that there's a grand conspiracy, and there's these outlandish claims. In Maui, there was claims about blue paint on the tops of roofs saving you from a fire because it was a direct energy weapon that shot down from space and caused this town to go up in flames. And there is a conversation, and I'm not going to dismiss it as conspiracy at this point, about cloud seeding in Texas, which, by the way, was going on. And we will be covering this, actually, on the Will Cain Show to let people know what's true and what's not. But the company Rainmaker, which is funded, I think, in part by Palantir, does seed clouds. And weather modification and cloud seeding has been something we've done for decades, since the 1940s. And it has a viable use in areas of drought. And the question is, did that play any role in the days leading up? They stopped this company by July 2nd. And I've had a discussion with them. They produced minimal rain compared to the 4 trillion gallons that dumped a few days later. But the point, I think, to what you're making is be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful with information.
Yeah.
Not unlike the left trying to blame climate change, or not unlike the left trying to blame Doge cuts. Blame is something that is both gross and understandable, because it is the thing people turn to grasp the handrail of sanity or control. But we have to understand that a natural disaster is natural.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it just, and it's still tragic. But we can't grasp that handrail into insanity.
There are hundreds of families who are hurting, like with a pain that not many people would understand, really. And the fact that, again, people are out there just trying to run around and push things, like there are actual human beings that are still hurt out there, and people who won't recover from this for years. And I just have a heart, and don't share these posts that are out there that are just garbage and trying to push conspiracy theories and things.
All right, on a lighter note, it's
Thanks.
still scary, but glad to have comedian Tim Young with us here. It's still scary, but it's scary almost comedically, and that is the New York City candidate for mayor as a Democrat, Zohran Mamdani. And I think that this story is not simply a local story for New York, because it does indicate something about the future of the left and the future of the Democrat Party. And people have been combing over exactly who this guy is over the weekend. And there's a lot of social media posts and history now of Zohran Mamdani that we can now take a look at. One of which is his post on when he was in college. He said, as a contributor to a magazine, Tim, I have been forced to personally grapple with these inconsistencies during my time here. I sit in class not knowing whether to correct anyone's mispronunciation of an Indian woman's name. I usually do, but today I'm tired. I'm tired of being one of the few non-white students in a classroom, if not the only one. I bring up race in a discussion only to see thought flicker in my peers' eyes and on their tongues. They sigh without a sound. I've brought up race again. I've sidetracked the discussion. I've chosen to make an issue out of it.
So he's been attention seeking for a long time. He's been dropping that race card for a while to try to get what he can out of it. I mean, it's par for the course with all of these people. Him, AOC, they kind of redefine who they are for the moment to cash in and get those little social justice points, and to be expected from this guy.
And I think when he applied to his Ivy League school, his SAT was a little bit below the median, but above the median on minority status. And he claimed African-American heritage, I believe, on this, which he was born in Uganda.
That works.
He was born in Uganda.
That works. You know, Elon Musk, he's an African-American too, but you're not allowed to say that from the left.
I wonder if Elon Musk could put African-American on a college application and have it be part of his admission status.
I think he could get away with it. I think there are a few people that could. Yeah, I mean, all of this is to be expected from Mamdani at this point. And by the way, I really loved that the day after the primary election, the one of the top searches in New York was, "What is socialism?" It's like, you guys are about to find out. Good luck.
Yeah, I hate that at this point we have to Google or use AI to find out what is socialism. Here's a good example. Mamdani posted on X in 2020, "Take it down," with a statue of Christopher Columbus being removed and him flashing the bird at the statue.
Why is he wearing rubber gloves?
He also posted, this is back in the days of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. He wrote an article at Slate, or reposted this article, "The Implication of Not Mirandizing Dzhokhar Tsarnaev."
So he thought he should get off of oh my... listen, if you look at that last picture, though, with the middle finger, why is he wearing a rubber glove? He's wearing like a surgical glove. Was he afraid of... Was this during COVID? Do you see that?
Yes, I do see that.
What a weirdo.
He's wearing a plastic glove. I don't know.
The air might burn him. I don't know.
This guy, though, is a real radical, is the point. And he is a candidate for mayor of the biggest city in America. And it says something about the future path of the left as a movement, but the Democrat Party as a political entity, that if you're going to go down the path of AOC and Zohran Mamdani, you're pretty blatant now about what's driving your ideology.
Yeah, look, they want state-run grocery stores. They love those bread lines. They're very excited about it. You know, Bernie, where did Bernie spend his honeymoon? Wasn't it Russia? Didn't he go over there for some sweet bread lines?
I think it was. I think the former mayor of New York. They're not unfamiliar with communists. Bill de Blasio. I think he honeymooned in Cuba. I think Bernie Sanders in the Soviet Union.
You got Tim Walsh, who went to China more times than anybody else in American history. I mean, these guys this is what they love. They're going to get what they voted for, though. And that's what's amazing, is maybe we'll finally learn something out of New York City when people can't get food, when crime is running rampant, and when the city turns upside down, when Broadway productions, when the women have to cover head to toe. And you can't have any kind of, exciting music. You don't want to excite people too much either. I'm very excited just to see where this goes. Let them get what they voted for.
There's a part of me that thinks that California, New York, this is the state you live in, and the majority thinks this way. So reap the whirlwind of your politics, reap the whirlwind of your policies. But still, I mean, when this is the type of thing, this is a headline now. Mamdani claimed FBI was responsible for radicalizing infamous al-Qaeda terrorists in old posts, quote, like blaming the Jews for Hitler. So Mamdani, I'm not sure which al-Qaeda terrorist this is in reference to. It might have been Anwar al-Awlaki, the American cleric, who ended up being droned in Yemen by Barack Obama. Or it could have been, I don't know. I don't know which al-Qaeda terrorist this is. I don't think it matters which it is.
No.
Blaming the FBI.
This literally shows the complete hypocrisy between the left and the right again, because the left, they can say whatever. And I mean, this guy has literally said absolutely anything and everything under the sun that he's thought of. And nobody cares. They get away with it. Luckily there are outlets like yours at Fox that cover this stuff. But if this was a right, it was you got the little.
You got a note from the producer. It was Anwar al-Awlaki.
You're not supposed to acknowledge that. I'm not a professional here, Will. But no, if the right says anything a little bit off color, we get burned at the stake. We get run out of town. But this guy, he's fully in on the lunacy of the left, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
They get what they get. I mean,
it's not that they don't care. They nominate him.
Yeah. Well, they love it. They love it. Yeah. I'm breaking things now in your studio.
Oh, it's just my charging cords here. Second day, Tim. We're all working out the kinks here in the new studio. Okay, on a lighter note, TSA. By the way, new rules when you're flying. You don't have to remove your shoes anymore. The TSA has now taken that away from ensuring that planes are going to go down. It's no longer a threat, your sneakers.
Listen, I've been TSA pre-check for a long time. I let them run my background. I'm sure you have too, because it makes it very convenient to get through for $80. I kind of want a little bit of a refund, maybe $10 on that.
What's the point in TSA
what's the point now? Yeah, exactly. But there was that one guy that one time. How long ago was it that there was the shoe bomber? Was that like the 90s?
Can we remember his name? Richard Rodriguez?
I don't know.
Something like that. Richard was his first name.
But one guy, one time, tried a crappy shoe bomb, and then from that point forward, hundreds of millions of people have had to take their shoes off going through TSA. Will. I'm glad this is over.
Richard Reed.
Yeah, no, next, maybe we can leave our stuff in our bags since they scan it. They have the 3D scanners, too. We can just leave it in there to go through.
Well, that's what's next. Can we not have to take out our laptops and our iPads? What about the liquids?
Yeah.
Do I have to give up the toothpaste, the hair product? You
ever go through with like a half bottle of water in your bag and they pat you down and they do the whole thing where they're like, what's in your bag, sir?
But I think that's on you at this point. The bottle of water is on you.
I always leave a half bottle in, though, half the time when I'm going through, because that even now the TSA pre-check lines.
My favorite story about water going through TSA. Newly signed point guard for the Dallas Mavericks, D'Angelo Russell, I believe it was when he was with the Brooklyn Nets, got busted for taking weed. I think he had it in like wax form, vape form. Through TSA, he got busted. And what he had done is he created a false bottom in an Arizona iced tea can, and that's where it was. And my favorite story about this is because he hid contraband inside of contraband. Everyone should know you can't go through TSA with liquid. And in his case, the liquid led to the weed.
Look, they're not all the smartest, but they're making more money than both of us playing sports. So, like, it's fine. It all comes out in the weeds there.
So, okay, we can now start wearing our shoes.
Yeah.
Through TSA security. As long as we're on this and we're figuring out air travel, I would love it if we can figure out, the boarding process, get rid of gate lice. That would be awesome. Next.
Yeah, look,
You know what gate lice are?
No. Is it because you're so close?
The gate agents have a nickname for us that gather around. Like, say your boarding group. But you can't make your way up to the line because boarding group 7 people are clogging it up front. It's gate lice. That's what apparently the agents call us.
They just flipped it for. I don't know if you travel American. I'm first class on American all the time because I'm famous and influential.
Fancy, yeah.
And they've now moved it so that first class is its own separate group instead of just group 1. So I get to board even sooner than everybody else and start boozing it up.
Not to big league you, but I'm concierge key on American.
You are not.
I am.
See, that cuts me to the core because I know what that is. It's so hard to get.
You know what that is?
Oh, I know exactly what that is. They have to hit the special button on you. I can't earn that. That's an internal. Did you walk around and say, "Hey, I got a show here"?
No, and you are. By the way, that was hard earned. It's the highest status on American. It boards before everybody else except for the pre-boards, which is a growing group of people in America.
Yeah.
And they call concierge key first, and it's usually maybe 1, maybe 2 people on the flight, right? And of course, I have to be waiting. I don't go wait up at the front, so I have to weed my way through Group 8, Group 7, Group 4 that are all up there. And but the real ego check is when they forget to do it, and they do sometimes. They forget
and you lose
to call concierge.
And you're like, do you know who
and they're supposed
I am?
to text you and call you ahead of time. Are you on time? Because the real thing is they'll hold the plane for you, depending on how late you are.
So I go back and forth to D.C. every other week, and my last flight had 9 concierge key on it. And I was like, this is the safest plane in the skies right now, other than Air Force One. Maybe even safer than Air Force One is this flight because this is your big wigs right now. Man, now I respect you. I didn't have nothing coming in
no
here.
respect
but
before.
now that I know your concierge key, gee.
That is a weekly commute to New York that got me concierge key status. I'll lose it soon because now my life is better and I do a show from Texas. But
God bless.
I have it for now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty nice. Okay, Elon Musk is now officially launching the American Party, a third-party political contender. He says he's not going to nominate, or back somebody for president in 2028, but he is going to target congressional seats. He says that the American public, by a 2-to-1 margin, wants to see a third-party option. He obviously suggests it's going to be dedicated to debt and deficit, among perhaps other things. I think he's indicated it's going to be pro-Second Amendment. But the history of third parties in this country is pretty fascinating. It's not on their own a success.
Yeah.
It's much more often played the spoiler role, most notably, as we all remember, by Ross Perot, probably handing the presidency to Bill Clinton by taking away votes from George H.W. Bush.
Yeah. Look, I don't know why he can't just take over the Libertarian Party. They could use a little bit of direction. So, every time I see their conventions, I only see like the outtakes and I guess the bloopers from them where people are stripping down on their stage during presidential debates and whatever else happens at those conventions. He should just take over that party. The American Party to me just sounds like a home for crypto bros and maybe some folks who are like not really anti-government, but just maybe a place to play with money and super PACs and
most likely will
pay your
have
friends,
some tech bros involved. You brought up the Libertarian Party. It is interesting how little influence the Libertarian Party has actually had on American politics. Where I think most young people at some point probably describe themselves as libertarian. You may describe yourself as libertarian today. I did at one point.
Yeah.
I saw this graph, which we showed last week here on Will Cain Country, that showed it's actually not as many as people say they're libertarian. They're not in how they actually vote or think or behave.
Yeah.
That means socially liberal, fiscally conservative. If you look at a quadrant graph that was published last week, I believe it was by Gallup or Pew, very, very few Americans actually live the way they talk in finding themselves in that quadrant. And the Libertarian Party's done itself no favors by nominating some very unserious people.
Incredibly unserious people. But also, where I would have at one point in my life, growing up in Baltimore, being a conservative from Baltimore, you are kind of socially liberal. But the left has ruined that. Like anything that I was pro for a little bit socially, they have wiped it off the face of the planet with how crazy they've gone and how far to the left they've gone and how extreme it's gotten when they're in schools trying to push whatever kind of gross books on children and things like that. I'm over it. I'm full conservative. I kind of look back and I was like, boy, was I a fool to kind of be socially liberal at some point.
Well, here's the history, by the way. We bring up the Libertarian Party. There's the Green Party that was essentially pioneered by Ralph Nader. leftist Democrat politician, was big on seatbelts and car safety back in the 1980s. The Green Party hasn't done much. I think he got, at his highest run, Ralph Nader, 2.7% in 2000. Jill Stein is the famously recurring candidate in the Green Party that many on the left point to, again, as a spoiler, that she's hurt them in some elections. The American Independent Party, see, I didn't know this, 1968, still in existence. This was George Wallace. It opposed civil rights and federal overreach. He got 13.5% of the vote and 46 electoral votes in 1968. And then there's the Reform Party. That's Ross Perot, 1995. He ran as an independent in 92. He got almost 19% of the vote. And then he ran again in 96. He got 8.4% of the vote. And so if Elon Musk does this, he's most certainly going to pull from the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he's absolutely upset about Trump. And I don't know what it is. Those guys just need to figure it out. I don't, again, two of the most powerful people, probably the two most powerful people on the face of the planet, they need to get together and maybe just have a chat. I don't know what they need to do. Drive a Tesla around the White House a couple of times, hang out. What do you do to bond between Trump and Elon? Have Diet Coke?
I don't know. Yeah.
Have some McDonald's? I don't know, but they got to figure it out. I don't understand why they're back and forth. Something was said somewhere that we don't know about.
The other way, though, the third party, Tim, has effect is by changing an existing party. And so there was the Progressive Party in the early 1900s, which didn't just affect Democrats, but affected Republicans. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt came from that vein of politics. Woodrow Wilson was a huge progressive. And Donald Trump, changed the Republican Party. He could have been called a third party candidate. And many wondered how would he run when he first ran. He ran as a Republican and changed so much about what it means to be a Republican. I think that's what's needed now among Democrats. Like, they don't need a third party, and they don't need a centrist. They don't need a moderate that looks at the middle position between two parties. They need somebody to look at this innovatively and differently and extremely charismatic, because there's no reforming the Zohran Mamdani wing of this. That's permanent minority irrelevance. Mm-hmm. I don't think that has a future. And maybe I'm being optimistic, but I don't think that has a future in America. So the savior for Democrats is to find their version of Donald Trump.
They don't have it, though, right now. And I don't know that there's somebody, because, again, Trump kind of took conservatism in the Republican Party a little bit more liberal. I think he is really a libertarian when you take a look at what he did. I believe he's the first presidential candidate ever to hold up a LGBT flag, but way back in the day in 2016 when he was running the first time. They don't have the character, because I think they're not smart enough to have the character. They don't have the ground game. Again, you see them messing around with the DNC and who they're installing, and they had to remove David Hogg already through kind of like a quirky way with their whatever their demographics are that they had to have going there. But they don't have an intelligent enough person to see what we're seeing right now. Maybe after this I'll go call up the DNC and say, hey, for a couple million, I'll come advise you.
Oh yeah, okay. And I'm going to do, now that you bring this up, I'm going to do this later this week on Will Cain Country. So I had this conversation with a friend of mine. Let's AI for a moment the perfect Democrat candidate. I don't mean personality. Let's just grant for a moment that it's an extremely charismatic, personable, good-looking person capable of commanding the nation's attention. Yeah. He still has to have some ideas that resonate. Okay, give them Matthew McConaughey. He still has to have a platform that resonates. And I don't think you can AI a series of platforms that right now could garner a mass audience in the United States that leans left. So in other words, say you and I were in that building with the DNC, and we're all workshopping this. What is your position on immigration? Like, seriously, we're sitting here. Do we have a position that we can formulate, we now personifying the Democrats, that would win 51% of America?
No.
I mean, you start with, okay, guys, I think we should agree we should shut down the southern border.
Yeah.
And we should deport violent criminals? Is that going to fly?
I don't think it will. I mean, it's so strange because, again, you're going to lose. I think they pay attention too much to their numbers and what's going on social media. A lot of people pay way too much attention to social media. You're going to lose your angry crowd. I think that's who they've been listening to. I think that's where they've been basing their policy off of. That's why AOC has so much power. It's because of her social media presence. That's how she got to where she is right now. Because in person, would you rather have her or like a more, I mean, again, I'm not giving her any credit here, but would you rather have her or, maybe like I don't know, just a random middle of the road Democrat that there are, I think, a few of them floating around on Capitol Hill, even compared to AOC, Nancy Pelosi isn't as left as AOC is. But AOC got more power than her because of the social media, and I think that's what they've been basing literally all of their decisions off of. So whatever the mob is screaming about the most, which is a very, very small minority on social media, that's what the left has been rolling with, and that's why the socialism stuff has been flying.
And by the way, immigration is just one issue where you can't say, hey, where can we navigate or AI generate a position that could actually win for us? Take trans. Like, okay, you're on the left now. What is the position that you're going to hold on trans issues that will get you to 51%? And I don't think you, without losing your base, to your point, as part of your 51%, you're going to have the left, and then you have to expand.
There's nothing.
And there's no position to take. The only thing they can do on the trans thing is avoid it. Let's just avoid it like the plague. We will not talk about this issue.
What if you just put a candidate out with no policy whatsoever that just was a cool guy? Sort of like Obama back in the day.
Just no policies?
Just look, he's the cool guy. You let Mitt Romney, back in the day when it was Obama against Mitt Romney had all the numbers. He goes, the debt ceiling and all these, it was math, right? So you got the nerdy guy who understands math. It's like, hey, let's not go into debt. And then you had the cool guy. And he really didn't have much policy. He was like, hope and change, man.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's what they have to do. They have to bring out a guy with just empty policies and platitudes, and it looks good and smiles and waves.
Yeah. Can you get away with hope and change in 2025 by
No.
being cool and good looking?
No.
You're getting away with it a lot, Tim, yourself.
I know. Look at me. Maybe
if
could they use the Hakeem Jeffries thing on me? I need to lose a few. Can you zoom me in a little bit?
Warping the background here. the Will Cain Country set. All right. He is a media fellow at the Heritage Foundation, and check him out on X. Tim runs his mouth. You did?
Yeah.
This is a housewarming gift.
Texas whiskey for your housewarming here.
Wonderful.
And you know it's real because they don't sponsor me, so I brought this in as a real gift for you.
That's really nice.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, check out Tim Young. Thank you so much, Tim. We'll be right back on Will Cain Country.